Hello everybody, welcome to the United Stand. Manchester United are out of the FA Cup 2-1 to Brighton reserves. Have they woken up yet? Are you joining us yet? All week on this community, we've been talking about the shit show that is our ownership and board and how that is the real issue at Man United. And many of us have been called out as negative. Well, I tell you what, you can't shout Amrim out anymore. You can't defend your players anymore. So why are Man United shit? Have you woken up yet? Have you figured it out yet? Have you figured it out it's not the formation yet? Have you figured it out that not signing players in January is criminal yet? Have you figured it out that there are four names that need to be out of this football club? Glazers, Ineos, Wilcox, Barada. They are the problem. Sack the board. It's season over. We're going to play a pitiful 40 games this season because we've been knocked out straight away in the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup. We've got Arsenal and Man City next. We're having interviews for an interim, which is probably going to be Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. We're absolutely embarrassed at Old Trafford. And still, some people refuse to use their platforms to get behind what we've been talking about all week. Wilcox is an absolute prat. And he's made himself look as Turbo Pratt today. You're not having any transfers, Ruben. We need to play a back four. And we play a back four, and we're even worse. Because you know what? As I always said, I prefer the back four, but you can't recruit a 3-4-3 manager and make him play a back four. The formation was never the problem. It was a preference, and people got very confused with that. I like a back four. We should play a back four. We need to play a back four. It's the system. It's the formation. We need to play a back four. No, that's a preference. You want Manchester United to play a back four, but what you didn't realise is it matters not if we play a back three or a back four. We're fucking shit. We sacked Erik ten Hag because our midfield was wide open in a back four, and you've just had a glimpse of what happens when we play a back four. We cannot do it. The defence gets overrun, the midfield isn't good enough, and it ends up being a training exercise for Brighton reserves. Can you imagine what potentially decent teams are going to do to us playing a back four for the rest of the season? I think Wilcox has got to go tonight. I think Barada's got to go tomorrow. And I think Ineos and the Glazers need to be starting the sale process. Because that back four is going to be an absolute disaster for the rest of the season. We can't do it. The reason Amrim played three at the back is because it gives you an extra defender because the midfield isn't good enough. We've now removed the midfielder. We're not creating as many chances and we look all over the shop at the back and the midfield is shit. So we've got massive problems coming up. I like the back four. But it was a preference. It wasn't a necessity. For some reason, we've got people out there that thought going to a back four was going to make us a decent team. One of them's our director of football. One of them's the owner. Absolute morons. They are sending this club into oblivion. I told you we haven't hit rock bottom, and that was on Tuesday. We're now out the cup. So things are worse than they were on Tuesday. It's incredible. But look, you know what? I say this with absolute intrigue. A few weeks ago, if we'd lost that game, it's Amrim out. It's all on Amrim. It's all Amrim's fault. And it wasn't all Amrim's fault, was it? It's still the owner's fault. It's still the player's fault. But you can't blame Amrim now. So who are you blaming? All these people are going, sack this fraud, get him out of the club. Who is it you're blaming now? Are you finally going to join us and start saying what needs to be said? Got to get these owners out. Got to get these prats out the board. We've got to change the way this club is being run because that was pitiful today. Fletcher, Ollie, it won't matter. It was shit because we're not good enough. The players aren't good enough. Delot doesn't even belong in a championship team. Mason Mount was like the invisible man. Bruno just looked not interested. And can you blame him? You know, another project. You know, should have gone to Saudi. An absolute shit show. But look, I wanted to say this at the start. There's a lot to get into. I really want to say this. I should have said it at the start. I'm an idiot, right? In relation to Lacey, I just want to say I don't want to see anybody having a pop at Lacey. I actually thought he was the most exciting player on the pitch in the second half. But that's what happens when you've got morons in charge of your football club. Because like Yoro, they hear everybody say generational talent and they think because they've bought a generational talent, they're going to be generational. If Jude Bellingham had signed for Man United instead of Dortmund, he'd be shit. But he signed for Dortmund and now he plays for Real Madrid and he's one of the best players in the world. At United, he'd be shit. because we think buying generational talent, young players, they'll automatically become good. You actually have to nurture them. You actually have to develop them, and you actually have to have an environment for them to get better. Lenny Yoro might not become generational, even though if he'd gone to another club, he probably would, because United probably won't develop him, and he probably won't reach his potential. So when we're talking about Lacey, we're throwing Lacey onto the pitch for his second ever game for Man United, hoping that he can rescue our season. And then people moan when he slams the ball on the floor because he's frustrated. He's a kid. He's a bloody kid. He's going to slam the ball on the floor. He's a kid. The whole point of being a kid is you've got to learn. You can't be critical of a player who's pumped up and determined and gets frustrated. We're frustrated. It's just a reflection of what the club is. But he'll learn from that. He'll probably never do it again. But that's what kids do. They make mistakes. They do, they're not ready. And we're throwing them in because Mount was shit and Bruno's not doing enough and Xerxes didn't do anything. So we throw a kid on and then we're going to moan about him for behaving like an innocent kid. So I don't want to hear anything negative towards Lacey, because I actually think he's been the brightest spark in a very dark week for Manchester United. But look, where we go from here is problematic. We've got to stop talking about sacking Amrin, but in a way, we should just revisit what happened. I think Amrin would have beat Burnley, and I think he would have won today, and the season would still have something to play for. Maybe he wouldn't, maybe he would. But I've got to say, watching United today, they just didn't react to that sacking at all. Like when previous managers like Mourinho got sacked and the players suddenly played really, really well. This is what happens when you sack a manager that the players didn't want to get sacked. There's not a bounce because they didn't want the manager to get sacked. They had nothing to do with it. Wilcox and Sir Jim basically had an ego war with Amorim and booted him. But you look at the players today and they look confused. They're like, we've been playing a 3-4-3 for a year. And then you tell us now we're going to a back four again. And we've been here before. And we've got to start again halfway through the season. And they looked confused. They looked lost. There was a lot of problems with the Amorim system. There definitely was. But when we played Brighton in October, their first team, we created chance after chance after chance because Brighton played very, very open. At no point in that game did we exploit the space that Brighton give you. And yet when we played them in October with the 3-4-3, we suffocated them. They couldn't get through it. They couldn't get at us because we had a back three, and we exploited their space and we pressed them high up the pitch and we won the ball high up the pitch. Today, we never instigated the press. There was so much space for Brighton. And the scary thing is, when we played them in October, we could have beat them 6-0. Admittedly, we let them back when we made the subs, but we just never looked good today. And look, Amorim's system had its problems, but it was a very aggressive pressing system. We won a lot of second balls and we created a lot of chances. And we did concede goals, and that was with 3 centre-backs. We're now going to try and play with 2 centre-backs where we're not pressing as much and we're not creating as much. I just don't get it. Yes, there were massive problems with the 3-4-3, but there's huge problems changing your system and going to a back four. We're not prepped for it. We haven't got the players for it. So, it's massively concerning. Where we're going to go from here is that we're going to get spun, aren't we? Wilcox should be sacked tonight, like I say. But they're all going to sit there and go, what are we going to do now? What do we do now? How do we resolve this now? Ollie's at the wheel. Tell me how good does it feel? That's their only play. Their only play is going to be, let's get Ollie in. And I don't see how that's going to work. I don't see how that's going to work because Ollie plays a back four. He plays on vibes. He plays on effort. And were we not trying to do that tonight? Were we not playing on vibes and effort tonight? I mean, look, what's Darren Fletcher supposed to do? I'm sure he said the right things. I'm sure he said, you're all more comfortable in the back four. Let's go and play the back four. Let's enjoy it. Let's go out there and put on a show. I'm sure everything was said right. But I think the players probably went, this is shit, mate. What are we actually doing here? And that's the sort of performance we got. And that is Brighton reserves. That's their reserve goalkeeper, their reserve centre-backs, their reserve midfield. That is Brighton reserves. And they've played us off the park at times. It was like a training exercise. They looked really good, and we looked really bad. So look, we've got we've got Man City and Arsenal next. Now look, we're Manchester United. Who knows? That light switch might come on like it did at Anfield. We maybe we'll beat Man City. It's a Manchester derby, but the thing that worries me is that's not sustainable. We might get a one-off performance, but we are where we deserve to be. We're out the FA Cup, we're out the bloody Carabao Cup, and we're staring into the abyss again. And we've got one chance now to get into Europe, and that's going to be through the Premier League. And I look at that performance today, and it sends out a very big message. We were better in the 3-4-3, and I think we had a better chance of Europe with Amrim. I think we're worse. It reminded me of the last days of Ten Hag, that did. I prefer a back four. Man United should play a back four, but it doesn't mean we're going to go. It doesn't mean if we do it, we're going to play well. We had a back four with Neville and Evra. We had a back four with Rio and Vidic. We should be playing a back four, but you still got to have the players to play it. I look at that back four, and I think, I said it to you after the Burnley game, what worries me about a back four is, with three centre-backs, you've got, you look at that second goal, it doesn't happen. We don't concede that goal with three centre-backs because Yoro doesn't end up as the only man with Welbeck. You've got another defender there. But we've lost a defender to have an extra midfielder, but the midfield is shit, and now the defence is getting exploited. And I think it's a huge problem. Look, what they need to do is spend money in January. But the hypocrisy of that is that you sacked the manager because you didn't want to do that. So if we end up spending money on an interim, it's incredible. If we spend money for an interim, but we wouldn't spend it for Amrim, who was the manager, it's just ridiculous, isn't it? So they backed themselves into a corner now where I think, you know what I think they did? I think after the Leeds game, they were like, if we sack Amrim now, Burnley's an easy win, and Brighton at home's an easy win in the cup. So we get a bit of a bounce, and we prove that Amrim was the villain. Somebody said it. Amrim's probably sat there in Portugal having a nice glass of red with a smile on his face going, this could not have gone any better. Even Mainu started and wasn't as good as everyone thought he was going to be. They've gone out in the cup. They're playing a back four. For Amrim, it couldn't go any better, could it? You get sacked. You get a few million. They play a back four. They draw to Burnley. They lose to Brighton. And they're fucking shit. And you stood to your principles. I'm not playing a back four and I want signings. Who's right and who's wrong? It's an embarrassment. It's an absolute embarrassment what's happened to United. And I don't know how you come back from this. I really don't know. I did that video in my garden, no way back. I don't see a way back without changing the ownerships. Even if they sack Wilcox and Barada, which they won't, would you trust them again to bring the right people in? We need new owners. We need new owners. We need a complete reset. We need to try and find a way to get them out. I would seriously be trying to get games cancelled because it's the only thing that scares them. How you do that, I don't know. Would it work? I don't know. But, we probably were right to think when we finished 15th and lost the final to Spurs that things would only get better. And 6 months later, they're still getting worse. I don't blame Fletcher apart from the fact that he's a Glazerite and he works for the Glazers. I don't blame Fletcher. I don't really know what he was supposed to do in that situation. I don't see what Carrick and Ollie are going to do. I still believe that you can stabilise and scrap points against everybody else and maybe get sixth. But is that really good enough? Is Europa League or the Conference League really good enough for Manchester United? Does that really give us the money in the summer to go and buy? Does it allow us to bring a decent manager in? You can look short term and say the club's on its arse. We've lost to Brighton. We're terrible. But I would look at next season already and go, I don't see it getting any better. Arsenal and Liverpool and Chelsea and Man City, if they're in the Champions League, they're going to go and spend loads of money again. And they've already got better squads than us. What are we going to end up with? If we're in the Europa League, it's not the same. It's not the same money. Where are we going to be next year? How are we going to develop these young players? Where's Bruno going? Say what you like about Bruno, he's playing in the number 10 now. You know, I wouldn't sell him now because he's playing in the number 10, but Bruno might just say, I'm going to go. So, you know, I think the only way back for Man United is the ownership. And look, I had people on the show this morning saying, we need to lose today. It will put more pressure on the board. Well, you got your way. I would change that to a win every day of the week. But I am, as I say, intrigued as to what these Amorim outers are moaning about and what these toxic positive people are going to say, because I've had people saying to me this week, you know, you're part of the problem. You know, we need to get behind the club. You know, we need to be positive. And I'm like, positive about what? You're the problem. You're a Glazer. If you're positive about this situation, you're supporting the Glazers. And if you were screaming Amorim out, did you want this? Did you want this? What's the thing that's caused today? Can't be the manager. What is it? You know? As I said, make sure you subscribe. Bottom right-hand corner. Get involved with the United Stand. We're live every day. And we've been having this conversation all week. The pressure needs to be on the board. The pressure needs to be on the board. Newcastle got rid of Mike Ashley. Other clubs in Europe have got rid of owners for less than this. Can you imagine what Liverpool fans would be doing? Can you imagine what Liverpool fans would be doing if they had these morons in charge of their football club? We need to make the change. Yes, we've got tourist fans who turn up every game. You're never going to... And nothing against that. There's people who turn up in their thousands to every Old Trafford game and it's their first time, right? You're never going to empty Old Trafford. So forget that. You're not emptying Old Trafford. You've got to find other ways of doing it. You've got to hit them in the pocket. You know, you've got to force them out. Let's see. Mainu, Dorgo and Martinez were our best players this class of 99. It doesn't matter, mate. Who gives a fuck? I couldn't give a shit. Oh, Mainu, Dorgo and Martinez were our best players. Who gives a fuck, mate? What's that got to do with the fact that we need to get our owners out and we're fucking shit? We lost 2-0 to Brighton. Couldn't give a fuck. Oh, Martinez was good. Dorgo was good. So what? So fucking what? What does that do? Seriously. Why are you finding positives in a sewer? I don't care. Maybe I'm being a bit harsh, but I genuinely don't care. We're out the FA Cup to Brighton reserves and I'm meant to glow up players that I'm probably going to give a 6. You know? Been watching since 2019. The club is lost and has been for a while. It's like a failing business with a rotten culture. Nothing will change until we change things from the very top down, says the Martian. The fact I'd sell every midfielder we got is probably most concerning. Inan, how the scariest thing in the world is how Sir Alex Ferguson is sat next to two very good ex-Man United midfielders, Paul Scholes and Nicky Butt. How is Sir Alex Ferguson not saying to the board, you need a midfielder? How is the board not realising we need a midfielder? How are we sacking a manager for asking for a midfielder? I mean, this is the thing. Is it sabotage? It's not sabotage, sadly. It actually is incompetence. I think for some of us, we'll look back one day and say Amorim was the right man at the wrong time, but I dread to think where we'll be by then, says Tom. 1414, welcome to Members Club. Agree they still won't hire the right people, but whenever you hire, you need to lead and manage them. The ownership will fail no matter who they hire, says Dublin Jackal. Amorim's still wrong. Just because Fletcher is the coach and he's not good doesn't mean Amorim was right. He was a learner-driver disaster, says Shahin. I'm just going to move past it, mate. You're a troll. Brighton's Gruder was incredible. He was brilliant. And so Welbeck's goal was brilliant as well, Lewis. We will be lucky to finish in the top 10, says Drew. Ollie, Carrick or Fletcher won't succeed with these players, says Castle. They can't be trusted no matter the formation. We'll be lucky to finish in the top 10. We've done that. Should we start selling Bruno, Casemiro, Ugarte this window? We're not getting relegated and we're not winning trophies, says the Sarsa. Ineos out, says Ray. All Amorim outers, hope you're happy now, says Irish Whiskey. Man United. Look, I want to say this because someone said it in the watch-along and not everyone watches the watch-along who watches the match reaction. I never said Amorim out. I was very much Amorim'd out. I hated Bruno in the midfield. I didn't like a lot of his substitutions, but I never said Amorim out. I said back him in January and give him until May. That is not being Amorim out. That is not putting pressure on Amorim. I said back him in January and give him till May. And I think a lot of people agreed with that. And also, if you're going to sack a manager because the players have down tools. Don't sack them because you're an egotistical twat who's fell out with them. The criteria to sack Amorim was not there. The players hadn't down tools. You needed to back him in January, and it's the middle of the fucking season and you're interviewing interims. The timing of it was horrific. And in defence of Amorim outers, I guarantee even the most vocal Amorim outer would not have signed up for this. They wanted Amrim out and Javi in. They did not want Amrim out because he's fell out with Wilcox over transfers and we end up with an interim. Shit show. Hi Mark, love the channel. Do you think this will spark the fire for another regime even more? And it makes me sad seeing the owners destroy the club. I hope so, Liam. I hope so, because it's very rare you get a Man United result that is totally on the ownership. And this week it's been 2. So, you know, you can't blame Bruno. You can't blame Delo. You can't blame Mount, even though they were bad today. You can't blame Amrim. You can't blame Fletcher. You have to blame the owners. You guys sacking Ruben when we have the best attack in the league and shit defence. Now we have a shit attack and shit defence, says the Italian man. Get Bagirstein in paying what he wants, says Tony. Delo is so bad that I can't believe he actually plays for Portugal, says Joshua. Best in class, yes, best in class of year 1 primary school, says Tom Kent. Shocking from the owners. There was a slim chance we'd squeeze into the top 5 with Amrim, but now I doubt we'll make the top half, says Kia. I hope the owners are happy. Cycle continues, says Christos. We played a back 4 and our problems didn't magically disappear. I hope those with 4-3-3 and 4-2-3-1 fetish now realise our problems are much deeper than the formation, says Adel. Why the hell is Beth posting that we were awful under Amrim? 0 IQ in this fan base, says Oliver. Mark, this is not rock bottom, it's getting worse, says Quinster. Look, I don't know who's posting what, but I think if you're not posting against the board and the owners, it's very naive. If Ollie comes back, will you be Ollie out, Mark, says Stoned. No, I'm not an arsehole. I'm not going to be Ollie out. You know, there's only one manager I'd be out from the start, and that's Southgate. But no, I mean, if Ollie comes in, I want European football. But I think it's a step backwards from where we were a week ago. We're the laughing stock of the football world. No great players, managers, even staff will come here, says Nick. We're not a serious club. In an alternative universe, do you think a Man City or Arsenal would get an interim for 5 or 6 months, says Dave? No. Martinez is terrible, says Franco. Mark, me, you and Ricky are doing a better job than our fullbacks and Agate. Can't pass, can't defend, can't do anything, says Adam. Sacked Amrim because they'd rather pay the release clause than invest, says Scott. I mean, yeah. I mean, spending 10, 15 million pounds sacking Amrim when you can buy Ruben Neves for that is incredible. How horrible for Sir Alex to watch this absolute car crash of a football club week in, week out. He spent a huge portion of his life building, says Tom. Lacey was our best player, says Michael. Lacey showed more passion in 20 minutes than the rest of the team, says Andy. The game was a revelation of what Amrim had to put up with all this while. The team played without a plan and didn't expect less, says Adoni. What is Beth going to say? It's Amrim's fault, says Mr. J. Pang. I broke up with my girlfriend last night. I said, get out. Can we do the same with the owners, says Ryan. Perfect example of how this club burns youngsters. Expecting an 18-year-old talent to save our club puts too much on their shoulders. They cannot handle the pressure, says Ian. I don't think Amrim would have won any game, says Shahin. Yeah, Shahin, you're boring, mate. You've done 3 super chats slagging Ruben Amrim off. I mean, I don't mind you doing that, but he's not here anymore. Are you actually going to remove your head from your arse and actually explain why we lost tonight? Because Amrim's not the manager anymore, mate. You're doing some weird point scoring shit. You know what? If we'd won the game and Mainu had played well, I guarantee you would have been here going, sit down, Amrim, Mainu, masterclass. Grow up. It's not Amrim's fault. He's not here. It's those twats' fault. Barada and Wilcox, they're fucking useless. Call it out. Would you take Amrim back, says Breen. Nah, mate, I want the owners out. Delo must be the biggest fraud in football, says Marlowe. Amrim goes City, I'll support City, says Matt. I've been Amrim out for as long as the Europa League final, but that never made me blind to the fact that we needed a team overhaul, a board overhaul, and a change of ownership. Amrim wasn't the guy, but the team ain't it, says Andre. Absolute rubbish. These protests need to happen now, says Perry. I'm fuming. The club is garbage, says Quinster. Glinios have killed us this year and is going to be worse than last year. Well, look, 2 years of Ineos, right? First year, you finish 15th. Second year, you're out the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup in the first round. Let's see what happens in the league, but they've sacked 2 managers. 2 years of Ineos. 15th this season, sacking your director of football, sacking 2 managers, $500 million spent. I mean, I don't think there's ever been owners as bad as that. We are at the turning point where Man United is in a pit, says John. Glinios never buy the full list of medicines, says Akash. Whoever decided to spend 200 million on a front 3 and not address the fullbacks and midfield is a disgrace, says Jim. I'm done with the club, it's a joke, says Nelson. I really want to hear from the pundits that shat on Amrim now. They're all supposed to be football gurus. Fans who think team's board needs to be graced, says Nectario. Would have been a different day with Maguire and De Ligt together, says Ahmed. I disagree. I think Harry Maguire in a back 4 is going to be a problem, mate. He ain't got the legs. I think Maguire's finished if we're playing a back 4. I don't think he's got the legs. Sorry. I think the back three suited Maguire and Shaw more than a back four. I sit here, says Wesley, with a mask grin on my face. We deserve nothing less. What the hell was that? I thought I was done with anger, says Matthew. We can play a back 10 and we'll still be shit, says one and only. Norfolk Detecting, welcome to the Members Club. Today's team was the same as Ten Hag's team that got him sacked, says Don. You know what, Don? It was like going, I've got me Michael J. Fox Back to the Future gilet on, and it was like going back 3 years because that midfield was wide open. The defence was exploited. We've seen this movie before. We've seen a back four. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. You need to sort your midfield out first. Time for Wilcox to be held accountable, says Stu. I bet he doesn't get touched. Glinios out. Joshua says Neville said the formation is the problem. Amrin probably beats Burnley and Brighton reserves. They've just written off another season, says the Dublin Jackal. This used to be a giant killing. It's shameful, says Dave. Signing players in January won't fix this, says James. Yoro Delo poor tonight. Does Delo even know how to cross, says Tunas. Glazers out, bored out, and takes the gym with you, says Island Boy. Our season is over, the second year in a row, because our board's fragile ego. I've seen enough. Ineos out, says Salt. 70 million Cunha with another 1 out of 10, but his name's not Menu. Yeah, I'm not playing those games, York. I'm sorry. I think I'm not here to educate. Far from it, but I think you're just walking down the wrong path. I'm not wasting time arguing Player FC, Cunha versus Menu. Mate, our club's on the arse. We've got a board that's destroying us, owners that are destroying us, and you want to waste energy on pitting one player against the other. We need to stop doing all that. We need to stop arguing amongst ourselves. We need to stop bringing Gary Neville into it or having a pop at Beth or anybody else that's got a different opinion to you. These issues are minuscule compared to the fact that factually our club is going down the toilet because of the board and the owners. And you want to argue about Cunha versus Menu. Grow the fuck up and point your anger where it needs to be. I'll never get behind this team until Glinios leaves, says Stephen. Pathetic, says Adam. Why has no one else left a comment on Man United's YouTube channel? Because they probably do me. You can delete chat. You can delete comments, Alm. I'm sure they have. Amram out, they said. Clueless Pratt says it's MVP. Well, look, let's do player ratings. This will be fun. This will be fun. Okay, so I won't take long doing this. Lemens, 5. I mean, it nearly cost us a goal. It's amazing how Le Mans was playing really well, and this week he seems to be playing a little bit scared again. Not again. He suddenly looks like an inexperienced goalkeeper. He was playing really confidently, and now, I don't know. Is that, is it? I don't know. Delo was bloody atrocious. 3. Absolute shite. I mean, Mazraoui, please come back. But will he drop him? I don't know. He's rubbish. Yoro, probably a 5 as well. Doesn't look very confident. Generational talent that we're destroying. Martinez was poor. I love Martinez, but he was very, very poor. You can't argue with that. It was a poor performance from Martinez. I don't know why Luke Shaw's there because he didn't play. So, yeah, don't know about that. Agate, I've got to give him a score. I won't be able to do player ratings. Let's give him a 6. Agate, 5. Darren Fletcher just said, I think you can see the players are fragile. They need confidence. Well, don't sack the fucking manager then. Darren, stop being a bloody Glazerite. You can't come out and say the players are fragile. They need confidence. I mean, have you got your head up your arse, Darren? Do you realise why the players might be a little bit low on confidence? Because they've just sacked the manager and told them to change formation halfway through the season. Bloody mad. I don't even know what we're talking about. Menu probably, I thought it was okay. 5.5 for me. I'd have kept him on. I don't know why we took him off. Yellow card. People get booked. You should have kept him on. Mason Mount, 4. Thought he was shit, actually. Yeah, I thought it was really shit. Bruno, yeah, I mean, probably a 4.5, maybe. Yeah. I don't know whether Bruno's even fit, to be honest with you. I don't know. Cunha, probably 4.5 as well. Thought he was all right in the first half, not very good in the second half. Sesko got a goal, not a lot of service. He's not the finished article. He's a work in progress. 6. Maguire did all right when he came on. Casemiro, okay. Lacey, I'd give him a 6.5. I thought he was a bright spark. Xerxes, poor, 4.5. And Fletcher, look, you know, I have sympathy for him, but that post-match bullshit, you know, rimming the bloody owners and the board. Come on. 4. Man of the match. Well, no, Dorgu's not there, is he? They've not put bloody Dorgu in. I would have given Dorgu, let's pretend that's Dorgu. I would have given Dorgu a 6. I thought Dorgu did okay, but there's no point in me giving him man of the match because it's not bloody Dorgu, is it? So, probably Sesko, I suppose. I'd be very interested to see who you've gone with. Yeah, Sesko, man of the match. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I suppose that's about it. I thought Dorgu did okay. It's a shame they've not put him in there and they've got that wrong. Some were tweeting dropping Casemiro was a good call, says EG. I mean, EG, if you think Casemiro starting changes that game, it's laughable. Why are people trying to point score? Is that how your brain works? Like, you're literally saying, ow, people who wanted Casemiro out, sit down. Mate, we're all sat down. What are you talking about? Casemiro starting or not? We're all bloody sat down. What are you sat there with a smug face saying, oh, people said Casemiro. Do you think Casemiro would have made a fucking difference? He's shit. He's been shit for 2 months. And you're going, oh, people who wanted Casemiro out, sit down. Mate, we're all fucking sat down. The board is killing the club and you're there having a bloody wank because Casemiro didn't play. What are you talking about? What are you talking about, Casemiro? Why are you doing Player FC? You bloody prat. Why are you doing Player FC? The club's in the bloody mud, mate. You're meant to support Man United and you're doing Player FC. Why are you not talking about Wilcox or Barada or the owners? Why are you happy that Casemiro didn't play and we lost? What are you point scoring for about that, you bloody idiots? Bloody wake up. Wake up and start calling out the real issues. People concentrating on the players instead of the owners. Exactly, Vibber. What do you think created this toxic environment? Exactly. They thought Gallagher will fix this, says EG. Barada ball, that's EG. Again, that's actually a good comment. Barada ball sabotage. Mark, get Wilcox out too, says Witch. Fletcher says it's up to the players now. Pathetic, says Niall. Well, look, get used to it. We're going to have a manager or an interim who sucks off the board from now until May. We're basically going to have a glazer-out yes man, whether it's Ollie, Carrick, Van Nistelrooy, Fletcher. They're coming. I mean, you know what? I'll say this to all of them. Carrick, Ollie, Van Nistelrooy, if you truly are a United legend, you should be saying, shove your job up your arse. But they won't. Bruno was understandably deflated today, wasted his talent. Marlo, I genuinely think that, you know, it's worth considering that these players didn't turn up mentally because they're as pissed off and frustrated as some of you. I mean, that was a performance from players that, in my opinion, backed Amorim. I don't think that there was a number. You know, Mount didn't play well. He was playing well for Amorim. Bruno didn't play well. He was playing well for Amorim. Leave the low out of it. But you know what? I think some of the players today didn't. And, you know, you should always try in a Man United shirt. I'm not making excuses. I think it's appalling if you don't try. But I don't think that was a reaction from a team that was happy that the manager had been sacked and ready to give a new manager a go. You say give manager time, give owners time, says Sibling. Oh, shut up. I don't know how we can't call out the board after they sacked the manager and we're out the FA Cup. Wake up, guys. The boys are they're idiots, says Man United fan channel. If fans were serious, they'd have been onto the pitch at the final whistle. It's the only way. Glazers won't hear you until you make them hear you, says the Fergie way. I know you were saying we need to get an experienced players in their 30s, but who is there to pick when anyone decent won't come near the club, says Flats. We got to try, mate. Sesko and Burmo wishing they'd gone to Newcastle, says CK. Can the Glazers sack Sir Jim Radcliffe and co, says PJ. Well, at least we've got Ahmad and Mbeumo coming back. Mike, it's sad to see our team play like this and we still have fans blaming Amorim. Even we bring 5 more managers, it won't change, says Arten. With proper midfield signings and an experienced striker, we could have been fighting for the Premier League, says Munn. We need a revolution and get everyone on board, the players, the staff, the fans, everyone. We need to take extreme measures, says Inan. Make Roy Keane manager with Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher, says HS. Ineos fast forward Glazers owners into order to drop the share price. A sarcastic joke, but the horror have with this ownership Glinios out, says Pran. Glinios didn't make any decision on time. Don't think they'll sell in time. An investor who wants to get the club will want a discount. And for that, nothing until Christmas 27, says Hitton. We need to really stop focusing on the past and get them all out, says Gav United. Okay, let's get over to the fan forum. A lot of you want to know what Beth and Co have got to say. I'm certainly going to be tuning in as well. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. I think it's going to be another busy week as well. So make sure you are locked in on United Stand. Thank you, everybody, as ever. Lots of people saying the right things. Looking forward to the fan forum as well. I'll see you over there. Take care, and I'll speak to you all in a bit. Still here, aren't I?